Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is the Ethics of Victoria 2, number 7B. We are the Confederacy of more or less evil, by the typical understanding of the word, and we are about to justify a war against the Italians. Now, they don't really have... Oh, let's see, what can we actually ask from them? We could dismantle fortifications. That isn't really anything we want to do. However, it is not too much infamy. We don't really have any great allies. We will ally Haiti. We do have the Germans as an ally. However, our allies have been basically just allying us and then dropping us every little once in a while. Mainly because we're at war with a bunch of countries and we aren't making peace no matter what, and that tends to upset the rest of the world just a little bit. At any rate, interesting, German forces are going about Austria. That's because they're their sphereling. Okay, that makes sense. So that's kind of interesting. Hopefully they'll just keep fighting their rebels and we won't have to worry about anything. And after we justify this war, we're going to just charge on over into Italy. We should definitely park our naval vessels because we do not have... we do not have the healthiest navy in the world right now, just in terms of, well, how damaged all of our ships are. We have some very damaged ships, and that's not too good whatsoever. We have finished our occupations of basically all the countries we've been occupying, though, so that is great news. And I'm not sure if we built our armies up to replenish these units or not. Oh, we need to pass some reforms because our people are rather upset. 10-hour workdays, and now we only have 2 more reforms that we can pass, so we gotta really hope for some sort of fascist uprising. And we're totally just going to give in to the fascists because, you know, that's essentially the goal of our state, is to become some sort of fascist dictatorship. Just because that's kind of where we're at as the Confederacy right now. We have all of our reforms passed except for ones that we don't want to pass, and that just leaves doing stuff like becoming fascist and then using that to keep the people content. The alternative would be to fight massive civil wars within our country all the time, and I don't really want to do that because that limits, well, that limits our ability to succeed, really. We could even be encouraging fascists in our capital. I'm going to just go ahead and do that in the hopes that that does actually turn into a fascist revolt. And we'll just see how that goes. Let's see, where are we facing occupations? Yugoslav pan-nationalists, y'all can do your thing. And some Bohemian nationalists, which I actually would not really want to see escape or create their own state, because right now we'll probably get a ton of people migrating out. So yeah, if we look right now, they are escaping, I guess, to a bunch of places within Austria-Hungary, but a bunch are going to Canada, actually, and only a small number are moving to our country, but they are still moving to our country. Let's look at overall immigration. Okay, so we are getting more than Canada. That's great news. Hopefully we'll still get more, even as a fascist dictatorship, but we'll hopefully get to the point where Canada gets their independence, and then we'll go smash them anyway. Or we'll have to fight the entire British Empire, which I'm slightly less enthused about the prospect of doing that. However, if it comes to it, then it comes to it. And hopefully we'll at least have Germany on our side, but we would still want to lead the war. Simply because the alternative is that we would have to attack the British in a way where they could make peace. So we'll see how it ends up happening. It could go any number of ways. How many brigades do the Italians have? 39? That's basically nothing. We are taking some attrition right there, and that's obviously not ideal. So we'll just keep our armies split up like they currently are. We have a ton of troops in Vienna just in case they have some massive rebellion. And yeah, we'll just see if they do or don't over time. Hey, we got Las Vegas as a core. That's pretty cool. Alright, and our armies are being forged. That's always great. That'll help defend our homeland in case we need it, which we very well may in the future. Apparently I'm just tripping all over my words today. That's not ideal. And we'll get as much of our navy in position as we can before declaring this war. We're going to want to try to bottle up the Italians. They don't have a presence in Africa, so we could probably do this fairly successfully if we get all of our ducks in a row. So that's really the goal then. Alright, and I don't believe any of our combat navies are over here, just a bunch of transport fleets. This is somewhat a combat fleet, although it is also a transport fleet, but we'll still bring it over. And we have 120 something days before we can go to war. Alright. So that's all good. What is our nationality looking like? We are quickly, or at least relatively quickly, converting all of these people to being Confederates, which is great. Over here you'll notice tons of people of not Confederate, which I was wondering about. Since we have so many immigrants, we're becoming a very ethnically diverse country over in these territories. I believe, let's see, how would we determine this? Oh, I thought it would be in places that were not our states, but that is in fact a state. Or at least a core. I mean, it is a state and a core. That's interesting, it's only really right there. Wow, especially right there, though. So that's kind of interesting. The rest of our country appears to be maintaining a sort of homogeneity? Homogeneous? Yeah, homogeneity. I think that's how you say that. At any rate, our country is more or less just our culture, other than in places where it's not, which is such a useless statement. Yeah, basically, though, we are doing a good job of assimilating all of these people. We can say that, basically, for sure. We really do need to get ourselves a fascist revolution, though, and quickly. We don't want to wait long enough that our people start revolting. Just in preparation for that, though, we will go divide up our army and just park it around various areas inside of our country. We will not have them automatically suppress rebels because we do not want to risk them killing the fascists when they rise, as that's just all sorts of bad. Let's see. This is a full army of 30,000 men. Great news. We'll go transport them over against the Italians. And that basically answers that we do not have that army ready to be replenished. And I guess there's just an army there, but that makes sense because we were dealing with revolts throughout Africa earlier. Alright, so what do we do with these guys? Well, they're not really a full army. And we don't really have the tools to make them into a full army. We'll go ahead and build 3 infantry, and we will build the replacement dragoon that they need, since they do have... Well, I guess that'll just be good enough. We will get rid of one of the engineers, and who knows, maybe that'll help. Since that is just an unnecessary group. And then we have a Dixie group, and we're just going to leave them in the army because there's no reason to get them out. And there we go, we have another African infantry, so we can just get rid of all the African infantry we have right now. Everything else will stay. Alright, and we have our Casus Belli. So let's go find this Italian fleet before we declare war on them. And since it's not there, that means we can park our non-combat vessels over there. And unless everything really goes pear-shaped throughout the entire war, we should be fine. They have 36 naval vessels. Let's go pin these guys down somewhere. And so far, no luck. They are trying to build regiments basically everywhere, though, and that's definitely not ideal. Oh, and there's their entire navy. Alright, so we could probably split these fleets up. I don't really feel like it, though. So instead we're just going to guard where their entire navy is. We're going to bring all of our various troops around. And we're just going to go for it. And they're allied with Poland, which is moderately inconvenient, but not really. Poland will probably start taking over all of those provinces. That's okay. I mean, it's not great, And actually, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And I'm a little sorry for Poland, because it would have been nice to see them, you know, get all their stuff back. Let's see, we'll declare war, we'll call in... Will we call in our allies? The Germans will accept, so there's no reason not to. Yeah, whatever, we'll do it. And we'll dismantle fortifications in Lazio, just because they'll pretty much always have Lazio, so it'll never be, never become an invalid sort of war goal. Alright, so the Germans are going to be called in on this. I'm not sure how long it'll take before they actually peace out, so that'll be a little interesting experiment in its own. Oh, and they refused. So, thanks, Germany. Luckily, the Poles also refused, so that's kind of a wash. And that's actually really awful that the Germans were able to refuse despite the game basically guaranteeing that they were going to accept. So that's not really cool on the part of the game for that to happen. And other than that, we'll just kind of go through it. We don't really have to go this slowly. It seems like things are fine. Should we split some ships off? These are a bunch of ironclads. They're not really combat ready anymore, despite the fact that it's called the Combat Navy. We will just detach these groups into really just as small of groups as we need. Let's see. Because they do have a port there, so we'll just actually split this down to the very ends. And that should be enough. I mean, it will definitely be enough. Alright, so one ship there, one there. We'll just split everybody off. We have no worries of the Italian Navy since it's all just bottled up. And it looks like I might have been a little overly ambitious. Or I guess overly optimistic when I said that that would just for sure be enough. Because it looks like it won't actually. And there we go, we've split up most of these groups. What is this? Oh, just a UK ship, or a Turkish ship in the UK port. Interesting, I didn't really consider that. Alright, and our occupations are starting to go through. It doesn't look like the Italians are mustering anything resembling a response at the moment, but that's never really something to just sort of... Oh, there they go. Alright, we'll just chill out right there. Probably bring these forces a little closer. Oh, and they're going to just ram into us. Alright, so there they go. Let's go prevent this from becoming a disaster. Oh, and it's immediately clear that it's going to be a disaster, just not for us. We'll let those dudes do their own thing for now. Although there are quite a few Italians coming there. Ooh, I don't want to chase them down, but I do want to destroy that army. We will leave them be for the moment. We'll just keep pressing forward. They'll come and attack us again eventually. It's basically guaranteed. The alternative is that they just kind of sit and let their country be occupied, and I doubt that they'll just do that. Yeah, see, look, they're already moving. It doesn't make sense for us to keep them stuck on the mountains, though, but these are also mountains, so it doesn't make sense for us to allow them to move there. Let's see, we will try to smash into that one group, and it looks like we're doing well, so we'll just keep bringing more troops in. Oh, the Italians are just kind of going off on their own. Oh, and now we are fighting an offensive battle right there, where I really would not have liked to. Alright, on the bright side, those Italian forces are back. We aren't going to be able to destroy these guys. We will have to go defend our other forces, but it looks like we're winning out loud. These groups will just kind of chill. Alright, and now they're all just assorted infantry groups that are rising up, so it doesn't really matter that we're just plowing into them headlong. That army will be more problematic, but it will hopefully just be convinced into attacking us. And that army split up, so that's not great. We could just chase them down and hopefully not. Oh. Okay. Well, they are mobilizing a ton of people. That's not great for us. Milan. We'll follow them there. Okay, so we are starting to pick off these armies, which is very good. It looks like they are moving into our Austrian territories. I say our Austrian territories, I guess just occupied Austria. Oh, but they did launch an attack, which is exactly what we were hoping for. Not really where we would have loved it to happen. Alright, and that army's been destroyed, so we will break off the most numerous groups, and I guess just everybody at once. So our battle plan is essentially just beat their army where we can. Which, as far as battle plans go, is pretty simple, but oh god, we're taking more casualties than we're dishing out. Okay. So we really probably should not have doubled down on that, since that just means we're going to lose even more forces than we would have necessarily lost either way. They don't have gas attack though, so we are actually turning it in our favor. So it was good that we doubled down. We will drop off the most severely undermanned groups. And we'll just keep up the hunt. Alright, so I'm not actually concerned that the Italians will beat us in any meaningful way. The big concern is just that we'll take attrition and it'll be slow. I mean, we don't really have any reason to want the war to end quicker, since it doesn't actually benefit us in any way. Although we also don't really want the war to be prolonged, because that also doesn't really benefit us in any way. Alright, that Italian army is destroyed. And we do have a lot of forces that we can pull into the fight if we decide that we need them. We will go ahead and split this fleet into 2 or into 3 groups and go blockade the rest of Italy. And we are going to have to occupy their islands to really get the full occupation going. Alright, so yeah, we might want to take a moment, just kind of a national breather, to chill out and let our armies regroup. We don't really have enough forces to do that at the moment, though. Since they'll just gain a lot of strength if we leave them alone. So, seeing as we can't do that, the only other option is to just keep pressing the advantage while we still have something of an advantage, as they'll just benefit more quickly than we will. Alright, and they are already unoccupying most, if not all, of their provinces. Although you'll notice, okay, they are actually building new troops. That is worrying as well. You can tell because they have no organization, but they're not as undermanned as that group. We did manage to intercept the group that was already being reconstructed, or that had been constructed. And right there, we're not doing too hot, but there's the big issue with their entirely just levied infantries. Oh, can we catch that group? That group will be able to in time. We'll just send them down. And they're getting away. Alright, so once we hunt down these armies, we'll just occupy the provinces that our armies find themselves on. We're too powerful to really be destroyed. See, that's why I wanted to intercept them, because they went from point 8, which was easily destroyable, to 12,000. And who knows what they're going to turn into after another month, but they're already back with the rest of their armies, so we just have to give up that struggle. And this group will just sort of occupy that province, and hopefully get that done by the end of the month. That way they'll be able to just resurge up to full strength, and... Alright, we'll bring this other group closer to them just so that the Italians aren't tempted to attack, and if they are, then it won't really matter because we'll have enough forces there to just overwhelm them. Let's see. So our groups are no longer 30,000 strong. That's basically to be expected. Oh, it looks like the Italians are having some rebellions, and that's great news. Absolutely great. Alright, so we've basically won the war. We've smashed up a good portion of their army. What's left is fairly weak. And we'll just chill in these occupied provinces and then kind of expand out there slowly. Or out from there slowly, I should say. We'll upgrade our tax efficiency, although at the moment we don't really need it. And then we have a bunch of other techs we should probably be working towards, but we'll do that in time. Let's see. Once again, we'll just leave the most undermanned groups and send the rest forward. And we'll just use this to, apparently just taunt the Italians into direct action. We'll just go attack. Hopefully we'll defeat them quickly enough. And it looks like we're defeating them just amazingly quickly. Although they do have all of a sudden more troops out of nowhere. Probably from fighting rebels. I wonder if this is an actual army. It does have artillery, so that explains why they're putting up a reasonable fight. Alright, what can we do about this? We'll split off 3 groups and the others forward. Alright, and then it looks like that's the only Italian army that will be left. So we won't just attack it right now. Let's see if we can cut off retreat for this other army. Oh, and we did. Great. Cool. So now everyone just goes back again. And you can see that is a regiment that they were able to produce. Interestingly enough, reserves. When you mobilize your reserves, they come out at 100% organization. What the game originally had done, which they have stopped doing... Ooh, let's go smash that group. I don't know why they're so poorly organized and so large. Let's see what happens if we just leave one of these groups here. Oh, okay, so they're entirely just going after them in an attack. And there we go. Big encirclement. Basically a war winner right there. We might take a few more losses than we would have liked, but it should be okay. And they weren't able to escape. Alright, great news. Get everyone back together. And they are trying to recreate more groups just throughout their country. That's not terribly surprising. There we go. Our armies are more or less back up to fighting shape. And now it's just back to the occupation. Alright, and they don't have an army, so, you know, no challenge now. We will eventually make it to the capital, no real need to rush it. They are already a communist dictatorship. I forgot if I had already known that or not, but, well, we know it now. We may even actually just let these dudes get out. There we go. The main reason for letting them escape is I don't really want to deal with them later on when they're just anywhere else. And this will probably let them go, come and attack us in some ponderous fashion. While all of our forces are pretty much just all clumped together. So we'll just bring them even closer together. And there we go. We'll just roll on in. Doesn't look like we'll really need to do too much. And that should just obliterate that force. And there we go. They do still exist, but another battle like that should really solve that little issue. Which it has. Alright, cool. So that worked out as well as I could have hoped. And then we'll just work on... I believe if we cut them off from other countries by land, then they will only be able to trade overseas, and we've already blockaded them overseas. So that should just mean that they're going to have to rely entirely on their domestic production in order to build up armies. Although really at that point it doesn't matter too much since they won't have any provinces to build the armies from. So we'll just expand kind of just straightforward outward from our initial area. Our people are pretty upset right now, which isn't too great. So we'll probably wait until 6.5 militancy. If we're lucky, that'll get the fascists to rise up. If we're unlucky, it'll get anyone and everyone else to rise up first, which is a realistic outcome as well. We are now rank 5 of Great Powers. The previous rank 5 was, of course, Italy, which is now only rank 6th, but we'll see how far down they go by the end of this, presumably. Let's see. Austria's at a solid 53, so probably around 52. We'll have to actually compare... Oh, and let's move this force from the Austrian capital because they do have an army, because the Italians occupied a portion of their country, of course. So they were able to build a group there. I didn't consider that earlier, and I guess, you know, that's my own mistake. So I am happy that Poland survived and didn't attack us. If we're lucky, what they'll do is manage to survive without attacking us until we attack Germany, and then they'll just be able to take that over. Looks like some Austrian nationalists are doing some stuff. Hopefully our navy is more powerful than theirs, otherwise I've made a terrible series of mistakes. Alright, and it definitely sort of seems to be. We can still pull all of our forces, but it looks like we won't need to. Go and get Venice. Oh, cool, and the Germans are just suppressing all the Austrian rebels, which in part kind of sucks, but in part's also really good. Alright, so our navy is taking some massive attrition, which I suppose is to be expected. Oh, and Confederate Communists, so that's exactly what we didn't want to have happen. So that happened at 6.2 militancy. Oh, and that's cool, there's not too many of them, but there's probably a ton in Africa. Oh, you know, there's not a single Confederate Communist rebel in Africa. That is really the news we were hoping for. We will get rid of that Hussar because there's no real reason to have Hussars. I guess we could go pluck those guys up. Alright, our navy is still winning somewhat by the looks of it. Let's just bring everybody back in. And we'll just have them go back to their original positions once they're done, making sure that it isn't an entirely moot point. Because if we were to just lose that naval battle, then obviously it doesn't matter how much of an awesome blockade we've been putting up with the rest of our forces, because they'll just go and wipe it clean. So presumably we may have wanted to do that earlier. We probably would have lost fewer ships. It doesn't really matter all that much since a lot of our ships were old, and we got at least one big fight out of them, and that's really a pretty good thing. Alright, so we are definitely going to win that naval battle. May have been a bit costlier than it should have been. Oh, and we did win it, but I just immediately clicked away the notification. Let's see, we'll go ahead and park all of these boats, and hopefully... Oh, cool, they immediately attacked. Okay, so that was really stupid of me. And stupid in the obvious sort of way. Well. Alright, let's see. Are they going to try to escape again? They are. I guess we're going out to meet them. I guess the poor will become more fascist. Damn, and they get back so quickly. That's really annoying. We'll have to land so that we get there on the 31st so that we can heal and restore our boats. I guess restore or repair. Probably better than heal since they're boats. Alright, so there we go. Go and land. We'll get semi-automization. And we'll arrive on the 31st. Click over. Charge back out. And they're back. So cool, that worked perfect. That means not only did we get the bonus for replenishing our forces, they did not because they were out at sea. That's cool, take that, Italy. Italy and your ideas. Alright, so let's see, we are winning this naval battle, which is pretty cool. Looks like Egypt is continually retaking their cores, which is kind of funny. You never really see that in Victoria too, so I'm actually pretty stoked. Oh, and now the rest of the Navy's going to have to come out, which hopefully won't turn the tides in this little battle. And it looks like it hasn't. Oh, and of course they managed to somehow retreat in a way that was aggressive. We're not at war with anyone new, are we? No, so who knows? That's pretty weird. I guess they managed to just combat retreat through. It's a little upsetting. Or maybe they just retreated, landed, launched back out, and killed our troops. Or our, well, I guess, yeah, we do have troops, I suppose. But, just, you know, sank our ships in some absurd way. Well, at any rate, we are sinking a bunch. Where are they going? Gulf of Gabes. Hopefully they don't just immediately sink you. Alright, cool, they didn't. So we'll just send these guys up. These guys are finishing their occupations. We could send our transports over. I'm a little hesitant to do so. Where are they even? Oh, right, we need to send these guys to Vienna, although the Germans are doing a pretty upstanding job maintaining control over the Austrian capital. Oh, we have these dudes who we were going to transport over anyway. We'll just send them over right now. Alright, what's your rank now, Italy? Number 7. So they are dropping fairly rapidly. France is number 6. That's pretty cool. So who moved in ahead of us? Let's figure this out. Germany, UK, Russia, Japan, then us. I think Japan was already ahead of us, so it isn't actually anything new. Although it is still deeply shameful for our nation. Alright, we'll move these guys around, hopefully not deal with that Italian Navy in a horribly detrimental manner. Are we winning this or losing it out loud? Could be either. Alright, we're going to have to attack some Italians with a really hefty dig-in bonus. Luckily, they are just a bunch of infantry. That's very good news. Oh, we should probably pass reform now because everyone's going to be pretty pissed if we don't. Alright, and I think that was the end of the Italian Navy. And in just a moment, the end of the Italian Army. Ooh, should we get beer halls? It'll make our people less pissed off, but it will make them less efficient at doing anything. I'm actually really tempted to do this. Yeah, whatever. And we could make the argument that it is also pretty evil to have a country of people just constantly, you know, just alcoholics, I suppose. Not to say that being an alcoholic is evil, just that you're probably more likely to do evil stuff if you are constantly just blitzed, man. Probably a safe bet. Anyway, that didn't actually hurt our economy too bad, so that's pretty cool. That might have just been... I think that was actually a national thing. So, who knows? At any rate, it worked out pretty well. Some Jacobin rebels, we don't really need to worry about them. And we'll just pluck up these armies. And now we need a new target, although we don't really have the infamy for a new target just yet. I do really want to take on the Germans. They seem to have a whole lot of pride and stuff. And that's deeply offensive as a country that's, you know, rising up and not quite there yet. I guess we could start decreasing our relations with them, which we already started to do. We probably don't have an army big enough to defeat them, though, just quite frankly. So what are we going to do about that? Because we should probably do something about that before antagonizing them and starting a giant war. Well, first of all, we'll just drop our troops off, replenish all of these undermanned groups, and we do have quite a few. So we'll just shovel these troops over to Africa and just create new half-African armies. Alright, so where would we fight the Germans that would be the most successful? Now, here's a big thought, and a pretty terrible one at that. If we fight them in Austria-Hungary, they will also free Austria-Hungary as they fight. So we should probably wait until the Germans pick a fight, as they inevitably will, with someone of their neighbors. And hopefully that'll cause some sort of ridiculous Great War, which, you know, would actually be pretty swell from our point of view. So yeah, we'll hope for a big Great War between really Germany, France, and literally anyone else. It doesn't matter all that much. And then we'll just go attack them while they're fighting that. It's pretty underhanded, but, you know, hey, evil Confederacy and all that. So I guess another question is, what do we do in the meantime? And that's a slightly harder question to answer. For one, we're going to have to build up our military. Hopefully get a fascist rebellion, which we can't really control. And other than that, just reap the benefits. We'll have to check out how many immigrants we're getting these days. Hopefully a ton. Alright, and that's a full army. Totally manned as well. We will disband these dudes. And just kind of see what we have left to work with. Alright, so we need 2 infantry, a dragoon, and then 6 infantry total. Oh, we can build a ton. We can just get all that infantry out of Africa right now, so we'll do mostly that, but we will get the dragoon. We will build 2 new armies. Let's see, we have a whole bunch of Yankees. Alright. Wait a minute, how did that work? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that did actually work how we wanted. And then we just need 2 engineers. And then the rest. Okay, so that's good. We don't have anyone chilling on the rally point. No, we don't. That's the most important thing. We have defeated all of our rebels. They didn't really pose that much of a threat, which is pretty cool. And we are still holding out in the United States, which is kind of to be expected. Everywhere else we're doing fine. Alright, so Germany has 400 brigades, which is considerably more than the, what, 50 that we have nearby? Well, no, we don't even... Yeah, I guess we do have... We have 60, 70, 80, 90. So we'd be outnumbered 4 to 1 before they mobilize, which would bring just tremendous amounts of forces over. We could conceivably do it, but it would be difficult. We could go to war against the French first, but I kind of hope that they'll launch some dumb sort of war. Let's look at our migrants while we're just doing nothing. A good 13,000. Canada's getting a whole lot as well, which is a little problematic, but not too much so. What's our sphere of influence look like? Not really all that big. We'll influence Mexico and then just all of the South American states that no one appears to have bothered with just yet. Brazil will probably become a great power. I wouldn't be terribly shocked if that happened. They are ranked 16 now, so hopefully it'll at least be Canada first. Australia is also pretty far behind, but not so terribly. China's probably never going to advance. And who knows, maybe some Chinese states will. Japan is number 4, which is really nothing new, but still a little upsetting. We will hold off on the final reform. Hopefully we won't get to a point where we really need to declare it. Let's see how many people are leaving Italy. Only 6,000. That's a little sad. A good 12,000 are leaving Austria-Hungary, 3,000 from the Ottomans, and about 2,000, 3,000. Alright, so, life in Germany is equally as bad to equally as many people as life in the occupied Turkey. Communist Turkey, I suppose. Or they just have a larger population to draw from. Which is probably the more accurate answer. But a little less fun. Although I guess maybe better? I don't know. At any rate, more troops are coming together. We should probably go send a few of our naval groups out to go pluck these guys up and bring them to Europe, since that's really where all the action is going to be for the rest of time. Let's look at crises. Potentially a crisis in really just only the places we're occupying, or also maybe Poland. So I'm not sure how that's actually going to play out. And there's no great rebellions among any of these people we're occupying, which is a little surprising, although I guess they're all already communists, which is the typical rebellion. We could go fight a quick war against Japan. We would have to build our navy up, and that reminds me to build our navy back up. Okay, and apparently we can't sustain very much more than that amount of battleships. We will build a bunch of cruisers as well, just because support craft are desperately needed. And we have a ton of money, which we haven't been pouring back into the economy. So we'll use that on naval bases, which we definitely should have been doing earlier, especially since we got California and never built any naval bases there. Everywhere else we're already at the max level. We should build naval bases in our African holdings. Oh, what is this? Peru? Alright, we'll just send what's left of our navy. It's a bunch of battleships and some ironclads, which doesn't make the most sense. But we'll go destroy that Peruvian Navy and stop that blockade. Alright, so we need the highest naval capacity we can possibly get. And that will help us defeat the Japanese. And that'll work. That'll be our way of just continually going just to the next most powerful nation. They have a solid 40 ships, 16 naval techs, which is probably fairly comparable to ourselves. Alright, we destroyed those Peruvians. You know, we also do have this army, which we should probably take literally anywhere. Japan keeps trying to ally us, but it just doesn't stick. So maybe we should just start decreasing our relations and just turning them down. Alright, cool. So we're now at 105. So we can hopefully get them down to the point where they hate us enough. And we have kind of connected our African holdings. One big thing is when we do inevitably fight the British, we're going to have troops pretty much everywhere in the world, and that's going to be a huge pain. So if we're going to war against Japan, which we may very well do, what should we do first? We could attack Korea, or we could just go straight for Japan, but I think going straight for Japan is a little ambitious. Let's see, though. We have at least 2 groups of transports. I believe the 3rd and 4th were parts of that combat navy that were just completely ravaged in the war. Which, you know, makes sense, but is sad. Yeah, there's no transports left, and I believe they had at least 10. And what are these guys? Just more ironclads. We don't really need more combat ironclads. In fact, we should probably be getting rid of them, but they'll work as escorts for the new groups of transports we're going to be building. Alright, so Japan does have a navy. That's going to be problematic. Let's see. We'll go ahead and name this larger group. It'll actually be the combat fleet now. I don't believe the other combat fleet managed to survive as an intact group. Alright, what is this? 1st and 2nd transports. We will actually get fleet out of the name of this one. Just since it's a little unnecessary now. Tons of little notifications and a rebellion amongst our soldiers, which isn't great. We'll turn off automatic rebel suppression. So what did we lose just then? An infantry and another infantry. So we'll just restore those. See, that's really the big issue, is as our people get more and more upset, they're going to keep rebelling in our armies, and that will ultimately be completely counterproductive to our goals. But we still need to encourage a fascist revolt in our capital. That has to happen. So we do have to let our people get a little bit more upset at us. The rest of our armies are pretty much intact, and that's very good. We'll just combine these groups together and see what it comes out to. What are we missing here? We're missing a single group of infantry, which I remember because we just couldn't build it in the first place. But now we can. Alright, so transports. We'll build them probably in Africa. And we will actually have them rally in Africa, at least for now. The combat fleet will move back to... we'll just move back over to Texas. We won't move any of our armies yet because we don't really know where we're sending them. We haven't even started the war justification, although it was probably going to be Japan, and it must be Japan before the end of the game. So yeah, for now we'll just encourage domestic unrest. Hopefully some fascists rise up. Let's actually take a look at that and see if they have a fascist movement doing its thing. Confederate fascists currently can rise up with 0 brigades, 0 ready. That's not great. 9% of our people are fascists, so you'd think they'd be a little more uppity. Evidently not. So this might be a little difficult. We'll just auto-turn down the Japanese. Oh, now they hate us. That's great. That is very good. We will get High Seas Battle Fleet. That'll be very important. Oh, wow. Egypt's really getting their own empire going. If Egypt turns into a great power, that would be pretty awesome. Not saying I expect it, but it would be awesome. I'm tempted to just fight these Italian rebels since it doesn't really matter all that much if we do. Since they're not nationalists or anything, so they're not going to be very fun if we let them win. It'll just mean we don't have vision, or we'll have to occupy places if we need to retreat into Italy. Which, depending on how powerful the German army is, we might have to retreat into Italy in order to fight them successfully. Although that is still... I mean, at this point, I think it's safe to say that we will have time to fight all of the great powers. Whether or not we have time to fight them in a way that'll lead to a really resounding victory or not remains to be seen. Alright, we're just looking at rebels, hoping for the best. Fascists have a 1% chance of rising. They have, what, basically nobody in the fascist party? Which is, you know, weirdly upsetting, man. Like, come on, fascists. Do your thing. But of course they're not. And they won't just do it on command. Let's see. We're taxing everybody basically as much as we can. That seems to be working out really well, actually. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I guess there's no real need to change that. We could build forts everywhere, but that also doesn't really solve anything or do anything. We will build forts everywhere in Africa because other empires are really almost certainly going to come try to take our African territories. So it'll be better for us if we have it just really fortified and annoying to take over. Typically you would do this, if at all, in your homeland. We're not that kind of country though. We're going to have troops in our home country, even when everything goes, I guess, pear-shaped or tits up, or however you want to phrase it. Oh, but you know, if we do get a communist rebel or a communist rebellion in Africa, it will undo a lot of what we're doing right now. Nevertheless, it's probably worthwhile. We're up to 22 million pops. I'm not sure what we were at the start of this game, but we'll compare and contrast the end game stats. That should be interesting. Alright, and we'll just hope for no communist rebels, although at the moment we are kind of encouraging rebellion by not passing the last reform that we can pass. Although we should probably save it for a moment when we're actually in a war, otherwise we may just waste it. Which means we're probably about to get to, hopefully not, but potentially an entire episode coming up where we're just constantly fighting off rebels. That could very well be the tone of one of the next videos, presumably just the very next video, because what'll probably happen is we'll have a ton of just random revolts until we finally get fascists, and then since there's only one group of fascists, they're probably going to spawn somewhere not on the capital, and we'll have to just kind of defend them to the capital while manually fighting all of the rebels in our home continent. So that's not exactly the most amazing thing to look forward to, although it is basically something that will almost certainly be in our future, unless we can get a small fascist rebellion to occur right around now. But no one's all that upset, although everyone is pretty upset. We have a whole bunch of liberation movements. We could just bludgeon them away. Surprisingly, nobody's really all that in favor of abolition. So, I mean, I guess, hey, we're the Confederacy. It makes some sort of sense. Also, just still, though, wow, guys. Whatever. I guess it's no big deal. We will build another navy. Looks like we can build all the transports we need in North America. Do that Africa thing again. And then just because we will make another group in America. Let's see. One of these should be occurring 3 times. Actually, no. That's not true at all. Well, there we go. So there we go. We'll have decent numbers of groups. We have High Seas Battle Fleet, which we were desperately in need of. We'll go ahead and upgrade all of these. We will upgrade forts on our naval bases, just because it seems like a pretty nice idea. And honestly, even more than because it seems like a nice idea, it's just convenient to click those both at the same time. See, I've been really considering my motives since we've started this series, and I'm not sure which it is. Whether or not I want to click these and build the 2 things because it's legitimately a good idea, or just because the 2 clicks happen so close to one another and it's a little satisfying to do that. And it is. Oh, cool, we can cut down to size this Asian country, which please has a coast. No, it doesn't. Well, never mind then. If we could have gone after one of the other Chinese states with an actual coastline, though, that would have been, you know, the objective to end all objectives, since it would have really shorn up everything we could have hoped for later. Japan isn't offering us an alliance anymore, which obviously makes sense. We will increase relations with them just this once, and here's what we're gonna do. We're going to wait for them to offer us an alliance, or we'll offer one ourselves. We'll see where all their army is in the moment where we are allied to them. Alright, cool, they don't have an army on this island, which is basically what we were hoping to discover. So when we attack Japan, we can take over an entire one of their islands, maybe 2 if we're feeling really supremely confident about it, which we probably shouldn't. But if we take over this North Island, we could probably let them slip a couple units across the strait every few minutes, then just destroy it, and just rinse and repeat until we've destroyed their entire army. They have 50 ships in their navy. We have a ton, but it doesn't actually give us a direct number, which is a little inconvenient. So we'll go look at ourselves. We have 90 ships in our navy. Tons of them are transports. We did just accept their alliance, but they'll probably break it almost immediately. Huh. You know, I expected it to be immediate, but I guess it's not. We'll just dissolve the alliance ourselves. And thankfully it's not EU4. And wait a minute, we only have a 90% war score against Argentina? What is this? Oh, I guess because rebels took back a lot of their country. Well, not really a lot, but oh my god, there's part of Argentina free. We'll leave chain gains just because it's evil. Arguably. See, here's the weird thing, is there's a defense for every sort of thing that's happened. Oh, we should probably go after Brazil, since they do get a lot of our precious, precious immigrants. We'll do that later. We'll go to war with Japan first. California nationalists, not the type of people we wanted to have rise up. We will just turn on our rebel suppression. Alright. Now we're at that point where we could decide to do something entirely different. Instead of doing that, though, we're gonna justify war, and we're going to go after just the humiliation of Japan, although I'm a little worried that that would become invalid at some point. We're just gonna do it. We'll hope for the best. We'll see what happens. We'll try to humiliate them. We'll at the very least declare war over it. My worry is it might become an invalid casus belli, and then it'll just kick us out of the war. Unfortunately, California nationalists took control over a portion of their state, and that's not cool at all. We're definitely getting into the rebel fighting portion of this. And there's not very all that much that we can do about that. Not very all that much. Yeah, there's not all that much that we can do about it. There isn't very much. There we go. I guess I just kind of said that too quickly for it to actually be a statement. Oop, merchants harassed. Who is this? Orissa? Guess I can't actually go to them. Probably some British Indian state, if I'm guessing correctly. Which I guess is a convenient way to get to war with them. Oh yeah, right there. Well, we're not going to do that. Not yet, at any rate. We'll have to see if we can defeat the Japanese, and if we can, then we'll worry about that sort of thing. Alright. What kind of government is Mexico? Are they a communist dictatorship? No, they're just a regular old democracy. Weird. Oh, this isn't us. We can't increase Honduras' opinion of us. We'll go do that. We have a whole bunch of places that we can't yet, but we'll hopefully soon be able to influence. We should probably start transporting our forces away from the various continents they're on right now. Let's see. We will detach the transports. From this second combat navy. Which might actually have just been the first. No, but I think it is the second. So this group will move over there, where there's already transports, and the other combat fleet. So we could just break up that combat fleet and use them in part as just transport escorts. What we will do is, for now, we'll split this group up. And there should be more transports being built right there, so that should take care of itself. And we'll just bring all of our naval units together. We'll actually just park these guys right there, since we will be bringing them somewhere else fairly soon. And this should actually be a pretty quick war to justify. Probably a little slower to fight, as I suppose wars typically are. Okay, we'll just have to split these up. I don't think these commerce raiders are actually going to do any good. In fact, they might just slow our navies down. I'll get rid of the commerce raiders. I suppose the best thing we could do for the health of our navy... Let's think about this. The best thing we could do for our transports would be to trap the Japanese Navy, or I guess just have them all piled up together with the combat fleet, not just on their own. So let's see. First we'll go land in these various Italian ports, get our troops there. The rest of the countryside can fall to rebels. It doesn't really matter to us at this point. We'll hold their capital and the capitals of these various European states. So we'll go pluck up our dudes in Italy. Let's see. Where could we position the rest of our forces? Really, just there. We'll move the others to the bottom of Africa. We'll just do it one at a time right now. And then we'll have to make sure that we've trapped the Japanese Navy. We'll do that with our initial landing of troops. Once that's done, we will... Let's see, what should we do? Once the initial landing is done, we'll blockade the Japanese Navy in their home ports, and then we will sail our transports back. Once we are sure that the entire Japanese Navy is trapped, we'll sail our transports back, pick up our guys remaining in Africa, which shouldn't be too many because we do have a second group in production right now. So we'll actually send this group over to Monrovia. And we should be getting the rest of these transports pretty soon. It looks like they're being produced, but it might take them a little while still. Although, yeah, shouldn't be too long, actually. Once that's all done, we do have an army being produced in America, which is just going to be our shorthand for the Confederates at this point, the Confederate States of America. And we can build a whole new army, although it will probably take some time, and that'll just be used for domestic work. Work being a convenient shorthand for anything that an army suppressing a place would have to do. So we only really have 27 combat ships, which is hopefully still more than the Japanese, and none of them are super up to date, since we don't actually have, what's it called, dreadnoughts just yet. Oh my god, we're at war with the UK. What is this? Ah, okay, so, I'm not sure what just happened. I'm not sure why they're fighting us. Who are they fighting us on the behalf of? The Ottomans. Okay. Interesting. Austria-Hungary, civilized nation. Turkey, civilized nation. UK, great power. Alright. Well, on the bright side, we are pretty much completely aware of where our armies are in Africa right now. Alright, so this changes everything. I guess we could still declare war on Japan once it's ready, but it's a considerably worse idea. We've already taken a decent clip of the infamy for it. So, what we'll do is we'll see if we can kick the British out of the worlds, basically. They're really going to be the big colonial power to fight. How many soldiers do they have? More than the Germans. How many soldiers do the Germans have? Slightly less than them. Okay. So, this'll be an interesting one. Can we get military access? No. How many ships do they have? Bunches. Okay, well. Yeah, so this will be a very different fight. We'll still transport our forces out of Europe. Hopefully they don't get access. Really sucks right now, Germany. If you were giving us access on our ally right now, that would be pretty cool. At any rate, that's not the circumstances we have it. We actually can't transport our troops because some British boats are there and will probably be there forever. Let's see. So where are we going to end up wanting or having to occupy? Definitely their mainland, or their home islands. So I guess, yeah, our plan for Japan is going to be our plan against the UK. We have our combat navies basically ready to go. I'm not entirely sure if we're going to get our transports all together. We really shouldn't wait for them because God only knows how that's going to play out. So we might just bring our combat units over, get them over here. Maybe we could occupy Ireland. That's really not going to be a safe bet, though. We're really going to need more transports because we're going to have to do this all in one. We could get all of these European forces into Africa. Worst case, we lose Europe, which means we'll have to refight the European powers. That's actually too terrible, so we have to defend Europe more than anything else. More than we have to defend our own African holdings, although we do desperately want to keep those. The British do have some forces over here, so they're probably... It doesn't look like they are actually, but they might eventually occupy our American provinces. So we'll just rush up there and take that while we can. We do still have a lot of forces in the Americas, so we'll send our combat navy over. I don't want to send the order just now, because we might revise the plan. But okay, so the plan that we're working with right now is going to be, essentially, defeat them in North America. They didn't call in Canada, which is cool. Bring our navy over at the same time, load up all these troops. If they don't have access to Europe, land them in Africa, defeat that. If they do have access to Europe, then we'll just load the transports empty, sail them back over to our homeland, pick up our armies there, sail those over to the place that looks like it's the most in need, so probably Europe. Defend most likely Europe unless they don't have access. If they don't have access, well, that's the less detrimental sort of course. So if worst case, we'll just send our troops over to defend Europe. We might even evacuate Africa entirely if we're able to get our troops out, which is not guaranteed, which is all reliant on us getting our transports out, which is also not guaranteed. If our combat navy loses, then we're going to have to face a while of some pretty difficult times. But I suppose we'll face them. Yeah, another consideration is that Germany at any point could do the same, since we are at war with their good buddy, the Austrians. And apparently they could just do that at any point with no notice. So let's actually go ahead and set this. Let's see if joins is a word that will pop up. No, okay. How about just diplomacy? We'll clear our search. Let's search for on the side. No. Okay. It's all crisis events. Interesting. I'm not actually sure what we would be able to see. I mean, I guess when we take over leadership of a war, that should be a pop-up. Okay, I'm not going to show you this because it's probably just dull, but I'll go through the message settings and make it so that we would actually have a little pop-up and hopefully have it pause the game the next time something like that happens. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Next up is going to be the good America, which is currently under attack by the United States of America. So that will be pretty interesting. I hope that we're able to survive. I actually kind of became pretty attached to good Confederates, to the good Confederacy. So hopefully they'll survive. And hopefully we'll survive. I think we will. We'll see.